Hello and welcome to Parking Talks. Today we will be discussing the topic of integrations and collaborations with vehicle manufacturers. Being connected is now a massive consideration for consumers choosing new technologies, whether this be what they drive, what phone they pick, or even home appliances. Today we have Dan from Arrive on hand to give us some information regarding their latest projects with automakers. And Jelle from Localyse, the Google Cloud Premier Partner of the Benelux and specialists on Google Maps, to tell us more about their experience with integrations. So Jelle, can you tell us a little about Localyse and how you impact the parking industry?
Localyse actually provide companies the ability to use Google Maps APIs, and the APIs are building blocks that can be used to create digital solutions, apps or websites in which a location-based data is used. And among several industries, the parking industry is one of the industries where these APIs, these building blocks, are used in solutions. So we actually deal with a number of clients in the parking industry, helping them create digital solutions that support their services.
And Dan, we know you've been working with a few automakers recently. Why have you taken this step?
We believe that ultimately what people want is what we call confirmational commerce. So we don't think people need more apps to download or more steps to take. And a car's screen is a very natural place to start and end a parking session, in our view. And so while automakers certainly it'll be a while before everyone gets the software interactions right and the voice interactions right. But what we're pointing for is a experience where a consumer, whether they approach a gate or they simply shift their car into park, the car knows where it is. There's no reason why we can't help them offer up a parking session and a parking transaction when it's appropriate. So whether I'm parked at a metered space, whether I'm parked on a surface lot, or if I'm approaching a gate, there's no reason we can't make it a one-tap simple for folks to start and end their parking sessions.
The idea of confirmational commerce is really interesting. Jelle, what trends have you seen on the integration side?
A lot, actually. It's a broad market, and obviously the need and the importance of digital solutions is ever increasing. I can funnel that question a little bit regarding that one of the solutions that we've been working on obviously always has a location component on the one hand, and on the other hand, other trends that we see are obviously the famous buzzwords like the Internet of Things, but also big data, and also computing power and artificial intelligence are very topics that are touched base with often. But also what we also see is that nowadays, as these buzzwords are everybody gets familiarized with these principles, we actually see that there are now really very solid and solutions arising derived from this technology. So I would say that big data and Internet of Things and also artificial intelligence are really very general consumer, not so much consumer trends, but technical trends supporting consumer solutions. And if we look more specifically into the parking industry, what we see is that the need to, or the possibility to have to digitally find your way to a parking space, but also be able to find the parking space based on digital information, we see more and more awareness of this and more programs with our parking customers that are really aimed at being basically digitally findable. So that's definitely a trend we see.
Okay, so it's safe to say that we can expect more integrations from large tech providers and auto manufacturers in the future?
On a high level, obviously you could call it a battle going on between the large technology providers like Google, but also famous car brands. So every brand or car manufacturer has their strategy. It's pretty safe to say that the integration of software within the cars is increasingly getting more important and really an essential role in the manufacture and the use of cars. So there's really very clear developments going on. Which large technology player will be part of your car in the near future? And obviously, the recent collaboration between the PSA group, so Peugeot, Nissan, with Google is one of the examples we see. On the other hand, there are obviously alternative platforms as well that have other car brands integrations as well. So in the near future, we will see either systems that support several of these big technology players, or potentially you end up with a vehicle that has a specific preference in integration with a certain technology player. Yeah, so this will change, and in that sense, the car and the car manufacturing arena is a new area where the big technology companies are basically fighting for market share. It's going to be a really interesting time to see, specifically for the parking industry, what will happen if more and more people stop using cars, but use alternative modes of transport. And I think, I mean, there will always be cars and there will always be parking spaces needed. But at some point in time, I expect that the car sharing schemes and programs are gaining in popularity, as opposed to the idea that everybody has one or two cars standing in front of their house. So I think that's definitely a big challenge for the parking industry to see how this will develop in the forthcoming 5 to 10 years.
The point about collaborations with automakers is really valid, and we can see that happening more and more. Dan, you have some examples of projects with automakers, right?
We've recently begun working with GM and their various brands, as well as Fiat Chrysler. In both of these cases, we're starting with the reservations use case. In both cases, the automakers wanted to start with something that can easily be benchmarked against all the other apps that are out there. And so for those two projects, they took our APIs and working with their tier one vendors, we're able to integrate those APIs into a parking reservation product that is only a few taps in order to book parking. And so those projects have just launched. In fact, GM just launched in their vehicles, and Fiat Chrysler as well. And so for us, while we don't expect massive volume to start coming through these channels, we look at them as an opportunity to learn how customers respond to having the software in their car, to understand what are the friction points and barriers to adoption. And as I said, ultimately, we think that we can get there with our automotive partners where it is simply a one-tap experience. And really to make that happen, that involves a lot of partners. It involves not only their software integrators, it involves systems players that can provide things like knowledge that the car has shifted into park, for example. So we view this as a first step. It's an exciting first step for us. We've partnered with automakers before, but usually it's in the form of a companion app. So this is our first opportunity to learn what happens in the dashboard.
So we can expect some even greater strides towards convenience with future technologies. Jelle, what projects are you currently working on?
Not all of them are specifically related to the parking industry, but if I do zoom in on parking industry projects, some of the projects we see at the moment are, for example, I'm working on this case where actually a municipality, a city, has issue with a lot of cars driving around finding parking places, and this increases the pressure on the road network, and it creates several problems. So being able to find your parking space basically before you leave, or potentially even reserve it so that you're sure that you have a parking space and you can actually drive there in one go without looking and driving around in a municipality where you looking for a parking space, this will actually help decrease the pressure on the road network and solve several other issues along the way. So we're actually thinking with clients towards solutions. How can we help travelers by car to find a parking space quickly, to potentially book it and make a reservation so that you have the security of availability of a parking spot, and to make sure that you can get there in one go and also save time for yourself enjoying the location where you're heading. So these type of projects we see a lot, and they all of them have, well, the parking industry is involved as part of the whole chain of partners in such a project.
Well, good to know that our little niche is a pinnacle part of integration projects as a whole. Finally, Dan, what other automaker collaborations can we expect from Arrive?
We have a couple more automakers coming that are unannounced, where we have several projects working, and we're also working with other folks that have in-car systems. So you can imagine the likes of the CarPlays and Android Autos of the world that have projects underway as well. And we also have our Alexa skill that is live now, and we're partnered with the Amazon Auto folks to make that skill in their vehicle systems as well. We're at step one, really, I think, of what will be a fun and exciting journey. I know I myself, as a consumer, I'm longing for the days where I can leave my phone in my pocket, and whether I'm using my voice with Alexa or I'm tapping on a screen to make parking simpler, that's our mission at the end of the day.
Exciting stuff. We can't wait to see where the future takes us with integrations and future collaborations. Thank you for giving us your insight today. Don't forget, you can read the full interview transcripts very soon at parking-net.com. Thanks for tuning in, and see you next time.